Hey, everybody. We have a few more people that are still hopping on as we see. I hope everyone's screen is working. If you have any questions or technical difficulties, just maybe type a question in the chat over on the right-hand side, and we can get that fixed if you cannot hear us or see us. But yeah, so we are so excited to start this Office 365 series. My name is Ellie Snyder, and I am the Director of Marketing Automation here at Enable. Whether you're a longtime client of ours or this is your first time interacting with us, we are so glad that you're here. We absolutely love helping churches, and working with them with their technology is our passion, our purpose. It is absolutely what we love to do. So we hope that today we get to help y'all out and show y'all some tools that you can use in your ministry to really be more effective and, really grow your church and your ministry. So specifically, we're going to be looking at Office 365 today. So we're going to be looking at the offerings within the E1 license level of Office 365. Travis will get a little bit more into that, but that level license is actually available at no cost to any nonprofit 501c3 organization, which is so awesome. A lot of people start their knowledge with Office 365, maybe just thinking email, Outlook, calendar, maybe you use the contacts feature, but it can do so much more than that. And we're going to go deeper in that today and just show you some of the things that you didn't know existed. So before we begin, you can actually pause and rewind the webinar at any point using the icons on the bottom left of your screen. Also, if you joined anonymously, please put your name in the Q&A for us to know that you were here. We won't publish that. That's just for us to kind of know that you were here. Also, if you have any questions during the presentation, also write those in the Q&A. We hope to get to all of them, but if we don't, we'll have time for Q&A at the end. But if we don't get to all of them today, we are going to post those along with the answers, along with a recap of the recording. So you're going to get that in an email after this, so you can watch that later. You can send it to coworkers and obviously see the answers to all your questions. So I would love to introduce our speaker to you guys. Travis Phipps is our Director of Technology here at Enable. He has been with us for 8 years and is our expert on Office 365. And he's also a self-proclaimed Microsoft Office 365 geek. So we are in good hands here today. He has a wealth of knowledge, and so we're excited to learn from him. A quick recap of what we're going over. We're just going to be going over the extremely helpful but little known features included in Office 365. Travis will be doing a live demo, so you're actually going to see the screens and how to navigate them. Practical applications of how these features work in a church, and then time for Q&A at the end. So Travis, I will let you take it away from here.
Awesome. Well, Ellie, thank you so much. I really do appreciate the invite, and I am really excited to be sharing this. I've had the opportunity to share some of this information with some clients as well as some church IT conferences over the last few years, and really do enjoy it. And I hope that everybody, as Ellie mentioned, learns something new. Hopefully, you'll probably see some things that you already knew and some things that you know, but I hope that you walk away today with at least 1 or 2 new things that you find that would be impactful and helpful for you in your ministry. As Ellie mentioned, our goal at Enable Ministry Partners, we are changing lives by serving those who serve, and it really does drive everything that we do, and so that's why we're here today. So with that, let's dive in. So what we've done is we've structured this webinar with a few different scenarios or problems or questions that we want to try to address and show you the tools that are available in Office 365 to help with those. So our first scenario here is we want to do file sharing. We've got some documents, and yeah, I've done some and they're on my desktop, and I've put some others somewhere else, and then I email them back and forth, and it gets really hard to collaborate both within our own team, within our staff, but also especially with volunteers and external members that we need input and direction and contributions from. Well, good thing is that Office 365 has a solution for that. There's actually a couple of solutions within the Office 365 ecosystem that help solve this problem. They work very, very similarly, but the way they're structured is, well, let me start with this. So those 2 tools are called OneDrive and SharePoint. And the way we talk about them, the way we try to help people focus on them is like this. OneDrive is for me files. That's where I'm going to put stuff that I'm working on and maybe work with one or two other people on, but me files go in OneDrive. SharePoint, on the other hand, is for we files. Share is right there in the name, so clearly the purpose of SharePoint is collaboration and sharing. So I am going to flip over here and we are going to take a look at what those tools look like. So this is my OneDrive. You will see I have lots of folders and files available to me in OneDrive. I've been using this for many, many years. I can't say I'm great at the organization of the data, but here it is. Now, you may look at this and go, gosh, this just looks like a file system in a browser. That's exactly what it is. The purpose of OneDrive and SharePoint is to cloud store your data. And the purpose of doing that is to make it available to you anywhere, at any time, from any device. So no longer are you stuck only being able to get to your files and your data when you're at the church or at the office. You now have access to that data from wherever you happen to be. So we're storing all of our data in the cloud. We have this great web interface that lets us interact with it, but we also have the ability to interface this with Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel and those products, as well as mobile apps on iPhone and Android, as well as apps that let us sync this data down to Windows or to a Mac OS system. So a lot of capability and availability of this data. This works very similarly to a tool that you've probably heard of before called Dropbox. There are other solutions out there that do similar things, but this is the one that's included as a part of your E1 subscription to Office 365. And so each user gets 1 terabyte of space in their OneDrive. That's awesome and phenomenal. So I just want to highlight a few of the features. I've kind of been talking about it, but I'm going to kind of show you how it works. So you'll see right here, I've, like I mentioned, have all these folders and all these files, and I've got the ability to come in here and I can just click on a file and I can view it. So I'm going to go ahead and view. Oh, let's see. I'm gonna view this email or this Word document real quick, and you'll notice that it just opened up in Word online. So this is a very basic functionality that's available to me to do basic editing of a Word document. But I also have the option to open that on up in the full Word application if I want to do more than what I can do in a browser. I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'm going to go back to my OneDrive. So that's pretty neat. That's nice to be able to work on it from anywhere. You'll also notice as I hover over all of these, I have this icon that keeps following me. And whenever I hover over that icon, you'll see that that icon is giving me the option to share this file. Now, I also have the option to share folders, but if I click on that, I get a few options here. The first thing is, okay, well, how do you want to share it? So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to see that I can make it available to anybody that gets the link. That's kind of nice. Or I can make it only available to people in my organization so that it's restricted and it doesn't go outside. Even if somebody were to share that link with somebody else, they wouldn't have access. I also have the ability to lock it down to specific people to where they would have to log in. Maybe they are external, they're volunteers or something, but they can log in still using a free Microsoft account that doesn't have to be provided by the church, and they can get to this data. I can choose whether or not they can edit the information. I can even set an expiration date, and you'll notice whenever I don't allow editing, I have the option of blocking them from even downloading it. So they literally could only view it in a browser as opposed to even downloading their own copy. So lots of control there in sharing. All I've got to do now is provide an email address, and I can provide an optional message and send this right along. They'll get an email, they can open that, access the document, access the file, they can make changes to it if I gave them that right. So now you may be thinking, okay, well, that's kind of cool. I could share that file with somebody, but what if they make changes I don't want? Or what if they mess up my file and I need to get it back the way I had it? Well, we've got you covered there too. So right here, I have this ... menu, as I affectionately refer to it. And for any file, I've got an option for version history. So if I choose version history, you'll see this file actually started all the way back in September of 2018 with me. And then I shared it with some people and started having guest contributors because I was allowing anybody to access it. Then Peter, who is on my team, made some edits and some changes to it. Then some more guest contributor edits. So you can see how this file got used for a few months, and I have all these different versions. And I've got this cool feature that lets me, on any one of these versions, restore that particular version, or just go view it and see what it looked like at that point, or just delete it if I don't want to hang on to it. So very, very powerful, because even if I were to choose to say restore this version, it's not going to delete any of these old versions. It's just going to make a copy of this one and make it the new latest and greatest version. It would be version number 22. So really powerful version history features. And while I'm on that topic of collaborating and working together, there's another really cool function that's available for common Microsoft Office files, being like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. While I'm editing one of these documents, whether I'm doing that in a browser or in the desktop application, whether I'm doing that on a Mac or on a PC, I can actually have others working in the file at the exact same time. Microsoft calls this co-authoring, and it's very, very cool. It's great to be able to have a conversation or even be on the phone or in a Microsoft Teams chat and be working on a file together. I can see the changes they're making. They can see the changes I'm making. We can get the work done faster and know that it's all going in one place. We're not emailing copies back and forth that somebody has to figure out how to copy and paste all the parts and pieces. We're co-authoring and working together on it. Very cool feature and functionality. And then I also like to highlight that there is a recycle bin. So we can do all these fancy things, and sometimes we can get a little delete happy, or at least I can get a little delete happy. But inside the recycle bin, I will see a history of all the things that I've chosen to delete, and I can have the option of restoring those items and putting them back. So very, very cool functionality that protects me and protects my files better than, say, just sticking it on my desktop on my machine. So that's OneDrive, and that's some of the functionality that's available in OneDrive. And now we're going to talk about SharePoint, because I mentioned that there's kind of those two options, right? So OneDrive, again, are the me files, but SharePoint are the we files. So I'm going to flip over here to my SharePoint tab, and you'll see that I have opened up the Sharing Church. Now, the Sharing Church is a great place to be. They love sharing and collaborating with each other. And so we're just going to show off a couple of things that the Sharing Church has done here. You'll notice first off that their SharePoint site is set up kind of like a little bit of an intranet. That may be a term that's new to you, but the idea here is it's a place where people can go to get information that they need. We're going to talk about files, but I also want to spend a little bit of time talking about this news section. So this gives us the ability, maybe the HR director or maybe the executive pastor or someone in leadership chooses to make announcements to the staff and make those available here in a way that can include some conversation and all sorts of cool features that are available. You can see a bit of an activity feed to see who's been working on what. And I mentioned the comments or the conversation threads that can take place as a part of this as well, making this really a collaboration space. Now, again, I'm going to focus us back on file sharing. That's primarily what we're talking about today. So you'll notice that our structure here at the Sharing Church, and this is what Enable tends to recommend to most of our church clients, is we've structured by department or by ministry team. And so each area kind of has their own place to put their files. So I could look here at the adult ministry and see that they've got some files and folders. I'm going to drill back over here to the children's ministry team. You'll see they're planning VBS for this year, and they've got some other files and things that they're working on. And you'll notice this looks almost identical to OneDrive, and that's not by mistake. It works just like OneDrive. All of those same sharing features that we talked about earlier are available to me in SharePoint. The ability to sync this particular folder of information down to my local computer, that's available to me in SharePoint. I've got the ability to upload individual files or entire folders full of information to add it into this space within SharePoint. And I've also got the ability, of course, to create new things. Any one of these items would be available to me to create right within this space. So very cool functionality in SharePoint. And again, if I didn't make it clear earlier, the ability to share is not just limited to people on your staff. It's not just limited to people that have access to your Office 365. It is available to anyone that you choose to share with. If they have an email address, they can get a sharing link to this content that's in your OneDrive or in your SharePoint. Very, very powerful when you think about a church that often is engaging with members and volunteers and others within the community. All right, so that kind of covers us for OneDrive and SharePoint and file sharing. So now let's flip back to our slides here and let's see what our next scenario was about. So scenario number 2 says, hey, look, I do project stuff. Maybe it's planning VBS, maybe it's working on the new series for next month or whatever, but I've got projects that I work on, and I have a really hard time keeping up with all these files and then emails back and forth, and we're trying to communicate, and I'm trying to communicate with my teammates, but I'm also trying to talk to volunteers, or I'm trying to talk with the vendor that's doing our graphic design, or that's really hard. How can I do that better? So Microsoft's solution for that is called Microsoft Teams. So let me flip here to Microsoft Teams. And so again, we're looking at the sharing church. Now, Teams is a very complex and complicated program. I will not be able to cover everything in it. But here's the heart and soul of Teams. Teams is designed to be a place to get your work done collaboratively. So the focus of Teams is around communication, and that could be conversation threads like this in a channel. That can be instant message chats, which I'm not going to flip to. There's for various reasons, but I can chat one-on-one with individual people within my organization or outside of my organization. Within the communication or within this channel, I have the ability to chat again within this team, this group of people, kind of limited to who has access to this team. But I also have the option of inviting external people to collaborate and work within the team with us. So you'll see down here I have this external testing team. So I'll just show you what that looks like briefly. You'll notice this team has a little flag here that says this team has guests. Well, that's just giving us a heads up so that people that are in the organization recognize that whatever you're saying here, there's people outside of here that probably can see this as well. So just be careful. But this could be very, very helpful for collaborating, again, with volunteers and others outside of your four walls. So you'll see here we have a threaded conversation, and I've been tagging or pinging Doran, and we threw some stuff out here. We have this project plan, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Well, we have the ability here for this external user, so Mr. David Drennan, who happens to be a friend of mine as well as a client. And so he's an external user, and he wanted to talk to us and show us what he was seeing, and we have this whole conversation that goes back and forth. And then I also like to show you here at the bottom, so this message kind of looks a little different than some of the others. It kind of looks like an email, and that's because that's exactly what it is. You'll notice this shows that I posted this via email into this channel. So that's another cool feature of Teams. Every channel has an email address associated with it, so people could just shoot an email over and land that right into the conversation as well. So some great ways to interact. I mentioned chat. I mentioned the ability to chat individually or to have these more conversationalized chat experiences, including memes. Who doesn't love a good meme when we celebrate somebody's birthday, right? So it can be fun as well as work, right? It's okay to mix the two. I think we do that a lot in church, and I think that's a very good thing. It's real life, isn't it? It also, Teams has the ability to include the to do video chat, which can be one-to-one or one-to-many. It also has the ability to do things like this live meeting event, where you can have multiple people both inside and outside your organization join in via audio and video. And then, of course, it has the ability to just do audio as well. And I would be remiss to not say that it also can be well, I won't say full featured. It can be a phone system. So it has the ability to act as a PBX or a phone system for your environment. The feature set is a little different than some larger things, but for a smaller church, a smaller culture, a smaller environment, it can be very powerful because it's natively mobile as well as desktop, meaning that you can engage in a lot of different ways and be very flexible with your staff. All right, so that's Teams. Oh, and I mentioned in the beginning that Teams is all about bringing all the things together. This is where you do work and collaborate, right? Well, so part of that is that Teams gives us the ability to integrate other Office 365 tool sets together inside of a team. So I mentioned earlier, and I showed you under our external testing team, how we had a planner plan, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I also want to show you here, by default, I have this Files tab. And so I'm going to flip over here to Children's Ministry. So remember, we looked at the Children's Ministry folder in SharePoint earlier for the Sharing Church. And they had a VBS folder, and they had some files they were working on together. Well, notice if I go to their team channel, I also can access the Sharing Church Children's Ministry. And you'll notice these are the exact same files and folders. And I have the same functionalities to be able to open these within Teams itself to work on them. And then I also have the ability to add new files or to upload existing files or to get a link to the SharePoint space. So a lot of the functionality that I saw earlier in SharePoint is also available to me for these exact same files within Teams. So the idea being, it doesn't really matter what program I'm using. My files and my content are all local, are all centralized in this cloud storage solution, SharePoint being the back end of file storage, but presenting that to us in this case within the Teams application. Some very cool functionality and integration points that exist. All right, so that's Teams. And so we're going to flip back and let's take a look at what our next scenario is going to cover. Let me take this moment real quick just to remind you, if you have any questions as I'm going along, please, please, please throw those into the Q&A panel. You'll see that on the right-hand side, maybe an icon at the top right-hand side of your window. Please post those questions as you think of them, and we will do our absolute best to cover as many or all of them at the end of the presentation today. All right, so scenario number 3 is, okay, that's great. I've got files under control. I kind of know how to communicate, but I still need something to help me do project stuff. I've got tasks and to-do items, and I'm trying to keep up with what's going on, and I'm trying to, assign tasks to certain people and know how far they've made it in their progress. And so maybe some of you have tried a tool like Asana or Basecamp or some other project management tool. Sometimes those can be a little unwieldy. They're large and complex platforms a lot of times, and they've got a cost associated. So how about we take a look at the tool that's available to us within Office 365. That tool is called Microsoft Planner. Microsoft Planner is a very simplistic project management tool. It's not designed to have all the bells and whistles of some of the larger tools like Microsoft Project or some of the other tools that I mentioned earlier. But for me personally, I love Microsoft Planner. I find its simplicity to be awesome. I love that I can simply organize my information by buckets. So that's what each of these columns is called. I have the ability to add or create any new buckets I would like to at any time, right? And then I've got the ability to create tasks, right? These are the items that take place within this project. And so I can go add a new task, my new task. Oops, I can spell, I promise. And I can choose to set a due date. I'm going to say, let's set that due date for Friday, and I can assign that. I'm going to go ahead and assign that one to myself, all right? And so I'm going to add that task. So now that task exists, right? And right now it's on my to discuss column. But let's say that I wanted to go assign that or put that in the to do bucket. Well, I can just drag it over here and put it wherever I'd like to within the to do bucket. Or I can go and I could put it in Clarence's bucket. Now, if that's Clarence's bucket, it probably should be assigned to Clarence, but you get the point. I've got the ability to move that task around as I see fit, however I want to, whenever I want to. I can see who has access to this planner, to this project within Planner. And I've got the ability to open up that task and see a little bit more information. I've got the ability to put a description on it, to add a checklist of things, to add attachments to it, as well as to have a threaded conversation right here related to this task. So I can put my comments, others can put their comments, and we can really collaborate. I can create my own tabs or tags. I can assign whatever label I want to and color coordinate those and assign those to the different things or the different tasks within the project. So a lot of very cool features. I can assign additional people to work the task. It doesn't have to just be one person. So a lot of great flexibility and functionality available to me. And I talked about this due date, excuse me. So I wanted to show you that we also have the ability to view a little bit of a graphical representation of how we're doing on our project. So I didn't show earlier, but on that task, I would have had the option of setting whether it's not started or in progress, or if it's late or if it's been completed. And so I can kind of see how people are doing and how they're tracking against their various tasks here. And then I also have the schedule view. This is not a Gantt chart. It is just a calendar view, but it at least gives me an at a glance picture of what tasks are due when and how we're doing on them. So again, it's simple, but to me, the beauty of the tool is its simplicity. And I am going to flip back to Teams just quickly and show you, I talked about that integration point of being able to link that plan into the channel in the team. So you can see that's exactly what we've done here. We've added a tab that is our project plan for this particular channel. And Notice it looks almost identical to the way it looked in the web because, again, this is Teams bringing together multiple Office 365 tools all in one place to be able to work all in one place potentially to get our work done. All right, so that's Planner, and let's flip back and let's take a look at scenario number 4. So scenario number 4 is about meetings. It's about scheduling meetings. Now, you and your organization may have already adopted, as Ellie mentioned in the beginning, using Outlook for email and for calendaring, and you might recognize that you have the ability to see each other's calendars and to schedule meetings with each other and see when another person is available and things like that. And that can work pretty well most of the time. However, sometimes you're trying to coordinate amongst 5, 6, 7, 8 people. Oftentimes you're trying to coordinate amongst volunteers or others that are outside of your email system or your collaboration system. So you don't have the visibility to their calendar. It can be really hard trying to find a good meeting time to work together. Well, Microsoft's got us covered there too. Microsoft has a tool available called Find Time. Now the Find Time tool, sorry, let me flip over to it. The Find Time tool is available. Technically, you don't have to even be using Office 365 to use Find Time. So for those of you that might be doing something else or Exchange on premises or something, Find Time is a tool that can work with you. Maybe not the full feature set, but a lot of it can be available to you. Excuse me. So here you'll see that I have an open invitation. I have created a meeting request, and I did this meeting request from inside of Outlook. So Find Time integrates to my desktop Outlook application. So in Outlook, I said, you know what? I need to have a meeting, and here are the people I need to invite, and I want to create a meeting survey and send it out to everybody. Now, I'm not going to show you that because my Outlook is a little junky, if I'm just being honest, so I'm kind of skipping ahead just a little bit. But once I created that survey, it prepared an email for me to send to everybody that just said, hey, we need you to go vote on a time to have this meeting. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. If I click on the open meeting invitation, each attendee that was invited to the meeting gets a screen like this. And they have the option of choosing whether they are available at a particular time or not. So you'll see this is my view. And so I was available at all of the times that I selected, because who would try to schedule a meeting when they weren't available to meet, right? But maybe I changed my mind and I want to say, you know what, I'm not available now at this time. But you can also see here, I've invited Caroline and I've invited Ellie. So Ellie has chosen not to respond yet, and that's okay. We'll get after her later. But Caroline did. Caroline let me know that she's available at these times and not available at these times. Very cool. She also let me know that she would prefer this time. So if she got to pick, that's what she would choose. Well, what's really cool about Find Time is not only can I see this, but I have set up this meeting so that it will automatically schedule and book itself once everybody votes. So once Ellie makes her selections and submits her response, the Find Time tool is automatically going to look and find when we're all available. It's going to look at any times that people preferred, and then it's going to balance that with, well, what was the first available time that everybody said they were available? And it will automatically book that meeting for me. In this case, I set up this meeting to be booked automatically as an online meeting. So it's going to schedule us with a Microsoft Teams invite link so that we can all join that meeting at the time that it schedules. And so once it does that scheduling, everybody gets the invite. Everybody has the option to accept or decline the invite, just like you're familiar with scheduling meetings through the Outlook ecosystem. Very, very cool. And again, this works with people even outside of your organization. So they don't have to have an account to log in or anything like that. They can still vote when is a good time to meet, and their responses still go into the algorithm to decide what works best and get that meeting scheduled for you. I find Time to be incredibly powerful and a big time saver for me on a nearly weekly basis. All right, so let's move on to scenario number 5. Scenario number 5, we like doing surveys. We like gathering information. We like having people fill out information for us. Now, at your church, you may find that you're already using Wufoo, or you're already using SurveyMonkey, or maybe your church management system has the ability for you to create forms and have people fill out that information and capture that back for you. That's great. And if your church management system has that capability, I would highly encourage you to look at using that functionality to keep that data all in one place. But if you're already using something like Wufoo or SurveyMonkey or another tool to do this, I would highly encourage you to check out Microsoft Forms. So let's go take a look at Microsoft Forms. So Microsoft Forms started out within the last couple of years and honestly started pretty basic and very, very quickly grew up very fast. Honestly, as I was even preparing for this webinar, I had one of our teammates show me a new function that was available in Forms that I wasn't even aware of. So I'm going to share that with you, so hang on tight. But Microsoft Forms is exactly what you think it is. It gives you the ability to create a very simple form or quiz, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So you can have a form and you can give it some information and you can give a description, and then you can add the different types of form elements that you'd like to add. You'll notice that there are some common elements here, you know, a radio button choice, a text box, a rating scale, and some more that may not be so common in the church space. I don't know that a church is ever going to necessarily be worried about their net promoter score, but I mean, sort of we are. We just call it something a little different, right? So you can see what I can do here to build a form, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip back here and I'm going to look at a form that has been shared with me so you can kind of see one that's more complete. So here's a form that we have used in the past for a webinar that we did, and you'll see we gave some basic information, and then we had different question types. So here's some radio buttons, and here's a rate us how we did, and here's a text box for some free form information, some check boxes, and so some basic information in the form. But here's what I wanted to show you. I also have the ability to make it a little more complex. So I can choose branching. And this was the feature that I was not aware of had been added. So branching gives me the option of saying, you know what, if they say yes to this, then let's go ahead and skip them down to question number 4. Yes, you attended. Hey, would you like to attend more? That is a very cool functionality that not all form systems have. So that can be very powerful to help you customize the form and make sure that people are only having to deal with and answer the questions that really apply to them. So branching is very, very cool. And if you didn't know it was there, like I did not know it was there, I would definitely recommend you check that out. Now, you'll also notice that because I'm editing this form, I've been granted administrative access to this form. So I can also see the responses. So I would be able to see who had responded, what they had told me. I can export all of that in Excel. I can see ratings and how long it took them to complete it and things like that. So some really good metrics that are available to me because, again, I have administrative access to this form. But once I'm ready, let's say that this form is ready to go and I'm ready to share it with people. All I got to do is head up here to share and I get some information. I get the, hey, here's the link to give anybody that can fill it out. Here's also a link that you can give people that can collaborate or administrate this form with you. Here's an option to turn this one into a template that you could use over and over again as a starting point for other forms. So not the most powerful forms utility I've ever worked with, but incredibly powerful, incredibly feature capable, and incredibly, oh, that's right, included in my Office 365 E1 subscription. So keeping all of this data in one system, all able to collaborate and work together. Maybe I would want to embed that form in a channel in Teams. Remember, because we can do that. Very, very great capabilities to integrate all these tool sets together. Microsoft is very intentional about how they're designing the tools to work together. All right, so that's forms. So let's head back to our scenario list. All right, scenario number 6. So scenario number 6 is about video. So in your organization, you may find that from time to time you are doing training. You're training staff, you're maybe training volunteers, you're doing webinars or something for others, doing whatever that is. You may find a need for video. And you probably want to hang on to that video because you made it, right? Well, obviously your media and your production teams are doing service videos and that kind of thing. That's a little bit different, although technically this tool could store that data as well. There are some limitations to it that may not make it great for that purpose. But Microsoft does provide a solution to store internal video. Now, I'm very particular in saying internal video. And you'll notice this scenario question says, well, hey, what if I don't want to make this publicly accessible? That's an important distinction to make here. The tool that Microsoft provides as a part of Office 365 is called Microsoft Stream. Now, Microsoft Stream is a video platform very similar to YouTube, with one gigantic exception. You might have already figured it out. The gigantic exception between Stream and YouTube is that Stream is only available to people inside your Office 365 tenant. So that's going to be your staff members, maybe your trusted volunteers that have an account with the church. But the videos that are published within Stream are limited, and they can only be viewed if you are logged in to Office 365, to your Office 365 tenant. So that's an important distinction to make. But I still think there is tremendous value in this tool for churches. I know we use this tool as we produce training and videos and meeting videos and things like that for some of our clients. We will record those videos, and most of the time we will publish them into Stream. That way, it's one place that everybody can go to find the video and watch it at a later date. Now, there are capabilities within Stream that are pretty cool. There's actually some capabilities in Stream that don't yet exist within YouTube. So let's look at some of that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to search for a video. Well, before I search, let me just show you. Stream is organized to where you can have things done into different channels. You can have different groups. You can organize it by the people that have published it. There's a lot of different ways to organize the content in Stream. I'm going to use search because I'm lazy and it's fast, just to be honest. So what I've chosen to do was search for the word spoof because I knew that there was a video here called Spotting Spoofed Email. So this is the video I want to take a quick look at. Now, I'm going to pause this video because I don't know if you've ever tried to attend a webinar where video was playing. It tends to not work out so well. But I want to show you what's going on around the video. That's really what I want to focus on. So the first thing you'll notice is it's a basic player experience. I've got a full screen button and all the things that you would expect from an online video. But if you look out here to the right, here's something that you may not be familiar with. Here's a transcript of this video. And what's really neat and cool about this transcript is not only will it auto scroll as the video plays, it'll keep up with it, keep up with you in the video. But what's really cool to me is I didn't type this transcript. Nobody did. This was generated automatically when the video was uploaded into Stream. So the Stream system actually listened to the audio and transcribed all of that into text. Now, it's not perfect. I will tell you right now, it's not going to get every single word right. But overall, it does an incredible job at transcribing the video into text. So that does some cool things for you. I mentioned it'll follow along, it'll auto scroll while the video is playing. But what if I knew that I just wanted to read ahead and jump to this section where we have a much cooler story? Well, I can just click on that and immediately you will notice that the video jumped ahead to that point. That's pretty cool. You might have also seen that I've got this search option. So I can search, oh, that was a bad one. Let me see. Let me find a term. There we go. So I can search for text within the transcript. When I click on it, it takes me immediately to that point in the video. So some pretty cool capabilities. If you are like me, that there are sometimes training videos or webinar videos that maybe they weren't as great as this one. Maybe the speaker wasn't quite as engaging as I have been today. At least I hope you feel that way. Maybe you wanted to jump ahead. Maybe you wanted to jump around in the video. We all do it. We all want to do it. Well, now you've got that ability if this video is in Stream. Very, very cool function. You might have also noticed that we've got some tags that have been added to this video to aid in our search capabilities. So that's available to us in Stream. People can like the video. They can add it to their own watch list. They can share it. Again, keep in mind, they can share it internally, not with external people. And then there's a comment capability. So you'll notice this was a video that we had published internally and kind of required everyone to go watch. And then we told them, hey, go post a comment when you've watched it. And so that's what they've done here. But it gives you the ability to see that people can comment and have a conversation about the video within the Stream tool. So that's all kind of cool and really neat. But now I think I might blow your mind just a little bit. So I am going to search for another video. And yes, I'm searching for the word nerd. You'll see why. So we have this video that was a lunch and learn that we did internally. And the title of this video was Don't Talk Like a Nerd. So rabbit trail for a second. I don't know if you've ever worked with IT folks, but sometimes we can be a little geeky. We can talk a little nerdy. I'm doing my best today to avoid that. I hope I have been successful, but Melody may have some tips for me here in this video about how to not talk like a nerd, being able to communicate with people and boil IT down. The reason I'm bringing up this video, obviously it has all the same functionality we talked about earlier with the transcript and everything, but I want to show you this People tab. So this particular video happens to have Melody as a speaker throughout the video. So Melody has been identified automatically by the stream system. It has literally done a facial recognition on her, not to necessarily know who she is, but to recognize that she is a speaker in the video. Now, I wish I had a video that had multiple speakers and you would be able to see that it would actually show me each speaker in line here. But you'll notice also that I have this timeline bar showing me where she shows up. So if you look, you can see that as I scrub along here, I'm seeing video where Melody is on the screen. And again, my transcript is keeping up, kind of cool. But if I look here, there's this gap. And if I click on that gap, hey, look, that's where Melody is not on the screen. So you can imagine that if I had multiple speakers in my video, I would be able to jump to the points where they are on screen just by looking at what the timeline is showing me. Very, very cool, maybe a little creepy, but if you have video that has multiple people and it moves between speakers, that's a very cool functionality that exists in Microsoft Stream. All right, so let's flip back. Believe it or not, that was my last scenario. But wait, there's a little bit more. We have just a few bonus features that we wanted to show you, and I'm going to fly through those really fast so we do have some time for Q&A. But I'd love to show you a few other tools that are available in the Office 365 ecosystem, just to maybe whet your appetite for what else is out there. So let me jump back over here, and I'm going to quickly go to OneNote. OneNote is a shared document tool. Think of it like a notebook. In fact, it is organized by notebook, then by section or section group, and then by pages. And so if you think of it like your old spiral bound notebook that maybe had dividers and sections in it when you were in school, that's the way OneNote has been set up as well. OneNote is a great tool that is portable, meaning that the notes that I take in OneNote, you'll notice I'm looking at them in a browser. You might notice that this looks an awful lot like an outline for today's meeting. That's because that's exactly what this OneNote is. I have that open in my OneNote desktop app on another screen so I could follow along. But some other cool things about OneNote, I mentioned there's a desktop app. I mentioned I can view it in the web. There is also a mobile app, so I can have these same notes available to me on my cell phone wherever I happen to be. I can make updates, all of that stays synchronized, and it's always available to me because the notes are really being stored in the Office 365 cloud. I also love OneNote because I use a Microsoft Surface tablet device as my primary computer. And you may know that that device has a touch screen. It's touch screen capable and includes a stylus or a pen device. So I can sit in meetings and I can take notes by writing on the screen in OneNote. And one of the really amazing features about OneNote, yeah, it'll save that for me and I can go back and view it. That's cool. But I can also search within OneNote. I can search for anything that's been typed. It also will perform character recognition on my handwriting and allow me to search my handwriting. And if you've ever seen my handwriting, you would be amazed to know that OneNote can pretty successfully search my handwriting. So if it can search my handwriting, I'll bet it can search yours. That same capability is available if you're on an iPad that maybe supports an Apple Pencil. OneNote is a very powerful, very cool tool. And anything you put in OneNote, you can also share with others. So while this is my OneNote notebook full of all my information, I can share parts and pieces of it or the entire thing with other people if I wanted to. Very, very cool. All right, the next tool, Microsoft Flow. Microsoft Flow is a workflow engine. You might be familiar with If This Then That, or Zapier, or one of those other similar tools. Well, this is Microsoft's version of that. It is designed to let you automate tasks and connect different systems and solutions together. So you can imagine that a lot of their functionality ties into Microsoft tools, right? Automating things from SharePoint and Teams and OneDrive. And but you'll see if you go to Microsoft Flow, there's all these templates that Microsoft provides for doing all sorts of things. Like, hey, we can start approval when an item gets added into SharePoint. Send an email and somebody has to approve it, and then it gets posted, and that's kind of cool. There's lots and lots of templates, but I also like to highlight that it doesn't just tap into Microsoft services. Here's a connection point to Twitter. Here's a connection point to Dropbox. Here is an example that I think is kind of cool. So obviously this is more marketing sales focused, but let's say someone posted to Twitter and we went ahead and automatically had Flow check to see how many followers they have. And if they already have 100 followers or more, we went ahead and added them into our customer management system. This is Microsoft Dynamics. So now we've got a contact point that maybe we want to follow up with them. And heck, maybe we want to go ahead and add them on into our MailChimp mailing list automatically. So all this got done automatically by Microsoft Flow without anybody on our team ever having to take a look at that tweet. That's kind of cool. So you can start to imagine what you might be able to do in the church space with that same functionality. Maybe your church marketing team or communications team might find some value in that type of flow. There are lots and lots and lots of flow templates available, and really the sky's the limit. Your imagination is the only limit to what you can do in Microsoft Flow. All right, Power BI. Power BI is a tool that just keeps blowing my mind. And to be honest, I have a really hard time even comprehending all that it can do. But in a nutshell, Power BI is designed to take data from multiple sources and be able to mash it together and present it in a way that gives you meaningful data points, probably in a graphical form, to make sense of it, rather than staring at spreadsheet after spreadsheet after spreadsheet or table after table in your church management system. Imagine using a Power BI dashboard to take data out of your accounting package and your check-in system and your online live stream statistics, and to mash that data together to start to understand how giving is impacted based on attendance in those two venues or something like that. That's all possible in Power BI. You can tap into your church management system. You can tap into Excel spreadsheets. This particular data set came out of an Excel spreadsheet. This is some live stream information for one of our clients who shall remain anonymous. But you can see information like, well, the average duration of how long people stayed on, where were they at in the world when they connected, which service times did they connect to. You'll also see that I've got pages of information. I can drill in and say, well, okay, in the state of Florida only, what types of devices were people using? I can see information like what, overall, what types of devices or platform were they streaming from? And then you start to see some more tabular data where it breaks down. You can see bar charts, you can see pie charts, you can see it broken down by location. My point here is not to give you an exhaustive list of what Power BI can do, but it's to open your mind to the idea of data analytics and actually being able to take all this raw data you have and put it in a way that you can actually make sense of it. So we have several churches that have embarked on this. We have a few projects going right now with churches that are working on Power BI data sets and dashboard solutions to be able to get a better sense for what's actually going on in their church. What does their data really tell them is happening? And finally, Microsoft Sway. Now, I am not going to spend much time at all just to point out that Microsoft Sway is very cool. The idea behind Sway is building more interactive presentations, generally online-driven presentations. So think of them like an interactive brochure. It has more capability and more interactivity than a PowerPoint presentation. It's designed a little bit to be a more self-guided experience than a presentation like PowerPoint, where it's kind of a one presenter presenting to an audience. So some really cool interactive visualizations that you can do in Sway. They have provided several templates that you can use, and I would encourage you to go take a look at it and see what you can make happen. All right, lots and lots and lots of information that I just shared, but I hope you found some of it useful. And at this point, I am going to turn things back over to Ellie, and I think we are going to open up for some questions.
Yes, we are. Travis, thank you for that. I learned a lot too while listening to that. So that was great. We did get some questions and some good ones. So I think we'll have enough time to answer most of them, if not all of them, but let's just dive right in. So the first one we got says, can you assign, I think this is related to Planner, can you assign checklist items to individual people?
So within a planner task, you can only assign the task. You cannot assign individual checklist items. What I would suggest, I have that same problem. I end up having to break that out. Whenever I find a task that has checklist items for multiple people, those turn into individual tasks that I end up assigning.
Nice. Okay, great. The next one we had was, how did you switch from Planner to Teams? I think logistically on your keyboard.
Oh,
How did you do that?
so sure. So throughout the presentation, I'm on a Windows machine and I've been presenting one of my monitors, and I've used Alt-Tab just to flip back and forth. But I think the question maybe was about inside of Teams. How did I flip from the conversation to the project plan? So let me just highlight that again. So here I am in the conversation view, and across the top here I have various tabs. Now you'll see I can add additional tabs. This is where I could choose to add another planner. I wanted to add another project. And so that's what we did. We chose to add planner. We chose to create the project from here, and it created it as a tab. So all I have to do is click the tab that I want. So from the tabs, I can flip to files. I can flip to the project plan. So that's how I did that.
Cool. Okay, the next one. Can non-Office 365 users use Planner?
As of today, that is not possible. That is definitely something that has been requested. I know, in fact, if you're not familiar, Microsoft does provide a service called User Voice. It's actually a third-party product, but Microsoft uses it very heavily. If you just search through Bing or Google, your preferred search engine, for User Voice Microsoft Planner, I'll bet you'll find the link to it. And what you find at User Voice is other people requesting features or additions or enhancements from Microsoft for their tool set. But the cool thing about User Voice is you get to see the other things that people have asked for, and you can vote them up. And Microsoft is actually really good about working on the things that are receiving the most votes. So I would encourage you, I am confident that that request already exists in User Voice for Planner. I would say go vote it up. Absolutely.
That's great. Okay, question 4. Which tool in Office 365 can we use to schedule and track church employee vacations?
Church employee vacations in Office 365. So there are a few different ways to do that. One way to do that would be in SharePoint. You can actually go into SharePoint, and I showed earlier the intranet experience where we had some folders with files in them, and then we also had some news areas. There's also an ability to have a calendar in SharePoint. And so maybe you would choose to create a calendar that is the vacation calendar or the time off calendar that you would put into SharePoint. That would be visible and available for everybody. You could choose who could edit to add themselves or put entries on it. You even have the ability to subscribe to that calendar in your Outlook application. So for people that didn't want to go to SharePoint, they could view it in Outlook. For us internally within Enable, that's exactly how we do it. We use a SharePoint calendar. And for me personally, I view it and manage it within Outlook. So that's one option. I've seen some churches that have chosen to just do a shared calendar inside of Outlook. I would highly recommend that you not make that in one person's mailbox, but rather create a shared mailbox and put the calendar in there if you wanted to do it that way. I personally like the SharePoint style. I think it adds some levels of flexibility that you don't necessarily get with a shared calendar strictly in Outlook. And I'm sure there's other ways to do that too. You know, with most things, Microsoft, there's more than one way to skin that cat. But those would probably be my suggestions.
Cool. Okay, this next one says, email groups do not work as they did previously in Outlook. Can you explain this and how it connects with other features discussed?
Man, that is a really complex question. I'm going to guess that that came from an IT-focused person, because you're right. They do not work quite the same way that they once did. And while I would love to explain it, I do not have time in this webinar to explain it. The short version is that Microsoft started out with the old school distribution groups that you may be familiar with, where you have members and somebody can send an email to one address and it copies that message to everybody that was a member of the distribution list. Well, they felt like that cluttered people's inboxes because, well, it did. And so they moved into this mindset of, okay, well, we're going to have Office 365 groups, which give you now this ability to have a conversation within a sort of an email box, but it was limited within that group. So now it didn't have to clutter your inbox. You could go to that group either in Outlook or online and view that conversation, but it was still email based. Then they introduced Microsoft Teams, and their focus has really been around Microsoft Teams as a communication platform. And so they're really encouraging people to use Teams that are broken into various channels and to do your conversation inside of Teams in a conversation, a threaded style conversation. But because they don't like to just disable existing functionality, they've not taken away the ability to do that conversation inside of a group as an email. But if I'm just being honest with you, it really is almost like a redheaded stepchild right now. It's not a great experience. It doesn't integrate to Teams in any way. It does still integrate to Outlook, but you kind of have to know what you're doing. So I said it would be a quick response. It's not a quick response. It's not a great experience. And what I would suggest is what Microsoft is suggesting, which is move to a more Teams-centric channel communication experience. And I think you'll find that beneficial for your staff for sure.
That's great. Okay, a couple more that I don't think will take too long. Where can I locate Find Time?
Find Time. So Find Time is available at, I want to get the address right. I believe it is just findtime.microsoft.com. So findtime.microsoft.com. What you will also find if you are using Office 365, you probably will want to enable the add-in for Find Time. So that is something that I would encourage you to talk with your Office 365 administrator, whoever that might be, and ask them to help you with that. If you are that administrator, you're going to head to the admin panel, you're going to go to services and add-ins, you're going to find Time, you're going to make it available to your whole staff.
Cool. That's great. Okay, a couple more. Can OneNote take handwritten notes and convert them to plain text?
So I do not believe that OneNote has the capability of converting handwritten into text. It does allow you to search it, but I am not familiar with any functionality for it to convert that to text for you.
Okay, cool.
I feel like I've seen a demo of that at some point, but I don't believe that's in the product today.
Okay, cool. Is it better to use your browser or download the desktop app?
Loaded question. What's better for you is what you find the most usable and gives you the best experience. For me, I will say that I prefer using Teams as an application. I prefer using Word and Excel and PowerPoint desktop applications. But some of the functionality I prefer to do in a browser. So it really is what works best for you. Microsoft has really done a great job of making the functionality very similar across platform, meaning across Mac and Windows and that kind of thing, but also between browser and the desktop experience as well.
That's great. And then the final, just to recap, are all these tools available for free or are additional licenses required?
So great question, and I failed to point this out. Some of the functionality that I talked about with Power BI, specifically with Power BI, some of that functionality, creating and doing some of the mashups and things, does require a paid license. Not necessarily for every person on your team, just the person that might be managing that or creating the things. But everything else that we have shown today is available as a part of the free E1 license. So Microsoft provides E1 as an available license type for any registered 501c3 organization. If you have a 501c3 designation from the IRS, then Microsoft will be happy to provide you with E1 licensing. There is no limit on the number of E1 licensing that you can have as a 501c3. And everything else that I showed today is available as a part of that free license.
That is so awesome. Huge resources for churches, which is great. So that was all of our questions. Thank you, Travis.
Awesome.
Great. If you want to go back to that last slide, we will just wrap it up with some final details. But thank you so much for that. If you had any questions about what we covered today, we would love to help answer them. So shoot us an email or go to our website. Our number is on there. We would love to chat with you about how we can help you or get any of these tools set up for your church. Also join us for our next webinar, which will be this summer. Don't have that exact date yet, but you'll get a notification about it. We're going to be focusing on the productivity features within Office 365. So you're definitely going to want to go to that. And then the last thing is you will receive an email with the recording of this webinar with all the questions and answers listed as well. So you can access that link at any time or send that along to coworkers so that they can watch it as well. So that was all we had today. We hope y'all enjoyed it, and we will see y'all next time. Thanks again, Travis.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.